Got the new Suzuki 140. We are going to slide it over underneath our pick point here and hopefully get it out of the crate and maybe hang it on the boat. I'm going to take out the machine screws holding the crate together. It is 12 millimeter and there's quite a few of them. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 per side. And we'll get it flattened out and then we'll see if we can pick the motor. Okay, we got the crate off and now we're gonna unveil the motor. My favorite part I've been looking forward to. Can't wait to see her hanging. So, got her hanging, got the cowling off, hanging off the beam. This little bracket, I took the rest of the crate off, and this little bracket here is held on by 4 14 millimeter bolts, which I'm taking off of the last 2 right now. Then I will back the boat under it and set her down. Okay, the motor is officially hanging. Boat's still covered for the winter. Woolridge Alaskan. These are 3/4 inch bolts bolted through the transom. I just have 2 of them in there now. I'm gonna get some sealant for the bottom 2. That will go right through there. Once I get the sealant, I'll push them through, tighten her down, and trim up and swap the pump on. This is going to be a jet, so that lower unit is going away. That's enough for tonight. Suzuki 140 on the boat. So it's all mounted. I got the boat uncovered so I can run all the cables and controls. Now I'm going to hook up the battery so I can trim up and mount the jet unit. I said it was all mounted, but I really just have 2 bolts in it. So once I get the jet unit mounted, I know I'm at the right height in relation to the tunnel. If I have to move it, I don't want to take off the sealant that I'm going to use on the bolts when I finally mount it. So here we go. I'll check back in once I get the battery hooked up. There's the cables. And battery saddle. So I got the battery in the boat. I left my old cables from my old motor. The new motor looks like it came with new cables. So unwrap these. And it did, so I'm just going to route them through the grommet here. Clip some zip ties, hook them up to the battery switch, and get everything going. So my old cables were running through down to my battery switch. So I disconnected that. And now I'm going to disconnect the cables and reconnect them pretty much the exact same way with the new battery cables and remount the battery switch. Got the new cable routed through, back behind the fuel line and the vent line, up and hook the positive to the battery switch here. Threading it on now and reattaching. Okay, got the battery hooked up just as it was before. Switch hooked up. Tighten a couple things down and I think I'm ready to trim up and swap the pump. So I got a little, there's a little wire here that I forgot to plug in when I first hooked up the battery cables. Found that in the box that came with the motor. hooked it up, routed it through here. I'll zip tie it off all clean when I'm all done and set up. And you need that hooked up. It plugs in right here. And then that you can activate it. Trim the motor. Okay, got the motor all trimmed up. And now it looks like take these 3 bolts off each side. I think there might be another one under here. Maybe that's it. And then this should just drop out. So we'll do that now. So this is a 14mm. That seems to be the closest to it. 9/16 didn't work, 1/2 inch didn't work, so here we go. So got her all ready to pop off there. Had to remove this tab here, which is a 12mm bolt. It goes right there. And the last bolt is right under here, which is again a 14. And that guy is a little longer than the rest of them. So when you're putting them back together, don't mix them up. So not that heavy. Took the last bolt out, slid right out, no problems. Obviously everything's brand new, so it should. And now I'm supposed to swap the water pump over to the jet unit, as I was told, and then install the jet unit. So I'm gonna get this put away and I'll pull out the jet and see what we got in the box over there. A little bit like Christmas. So, got the box of goodies. Here's the actual lower unit, jet unit itself. Little extender plate shaft here. Open up this box here. Got a cool hat. Some grease. Foot, sleeve, impeller. Looking forward to putting it together. So emptied out this bag, got a bunch of different pieces and parts. Got this little shim plate and this shim plate. Inside the bag there was these little set pins to kind of hold the shim plate in place. So right now I'm figuring out where those go. And hopefully we get it all put together right. I'm gonna mount this to the motor, and then you mount this to the shim plate. So check back in later. So these washers pair up with these mounting bolts for the shim plate. There's 7 of them, so the math adds up. So it's got to be the right ones. Everything seems to be going great, and that is a 17mm wrench. Gonna pull the water pump off now. It is a 12mm. So gonna go ahead and pull that off there and try and get it fitted on the new one. I did not see a gasket, so I'm gonna try and preserve this gasket. I don't know if that's the right move, but that's what I'm gonna try. Pull the bolts out of the housing. And then I just used the socket wrench right there on the edge of the lower unit. Pried ever so gently against that so I wouldn't damage that gasket. And slowly pried, and that impeller just came up nice and easy like that. Now, pull that off and then try and get this little guy out. So when I get that out, I'll try and put that in the new shaft after I swap the gasket over and reverse the process, hopefully. Okay, I got the shaft mounted inside with the 4 5/16 by 1 bolts, 1/2 inch drive. Got that mounted. I'm going to do the keyway now and then the impeller. Shaft in place, water pump housing in place, 3/4 shim in place, tightened down to 22 pounds, roughly, like the instructions say. Grease the threads on the pump mounting bolts. I'm going to grease the shaft and that tube, which is already kind of greased, so I'm not too worried about that. It says grease generously, rather. So now I'm going to slide it into place and bolt it on. I have the dowel pins in place to lock it into the correct location. Okay, just got those 4 tightened up, roughly 22 pounds. Lock washers on, greased per the instructions. And this top doggy here, I'm gonna tighten him down, and then that'll be mounted. And then I'm gonna do the impeller. Okay, I just slid the impeller on. Now I'm gonna put the 7 shim washers up against the impeller here, and then you use the urethane torsion dampener. 7 washers. And then you install the torsion dampener up against the washers. Snug it up with the castle nut. And there you go. We'll probably get the threads on here.
So he's looking for a part here. I don't know why he's laughing.
Slide it over the shaft and so
You can right tell.
I think I gotta put this nut retainer on.
They already put the nut retainer on.
Oh, forgot the nut retainer, so I'm gonna slide this off here. Slide the nut off here. And then we're gonna throw the nut retainer on. Pretty crucial part.
We have 2 of them?
One is a spare, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Throw that back on real quick. And you just snug it up with your fingers, and then I think you just give it a bump with a wrench. Oh, I can even do it with my fingers. That's the wrong size wrench, kid. Thank you. Okay, shut it down. No, shut it down. You're burning up all my memory. So, installing the jet foot now, 1/2 inch nuts, 6 of them. Tighten them down to, I believe it's 12 pounds per the instructions. And I'll get those snugged up. And we might have a jet motor. I'm gonna lower it down, see if it's in the right spot, and then I'll make adjustments if I have to. So, I just hooked up the battery cables again. I disconnected them because I was gonna route them through the grommet that comes with the motor right here, but I'm gonna try and either fight it around them, splits apart to fit around the cables. I'm gonna try and fight it around them and cram it in there somehow, or find an alternative because that is a pain in the ass. So I got my 6-foot cable here hooked up, routed in, sitting in its final resting place down there, and connected to the top of the neutral safety switch. Now I'm going to run the throttle cable, which is right here. I've already got the Suzuki end threaded on. Both these are mounted to the bracket down here, which connects to the reverse bucket. And keep in mind that the throttle cable, or the one that goes to the control box, is on the outside, and the neutral safety switch is on the inside of that bracket. Mine came mounted reverse, so I had to take it apart and switch it. But per the directions, it says to have the one that goes to the control box on the outside. All right, making progress. I'll update shortly. Okay, I now have my cable ran hooked up to my throttle, hooked up to the motor. So went by the dealer today, picked up a case of oil. Supposed to change the oil after 10 hours. 6 quarts roughly. I think it's 5.8 per the manual, but 6 with the filter. So throwing 6 in it now, because when you get it in the crate, it does not have oil in it. And then I'm going to adjust the neutral safety switch, which is right there. The controls come back. Throttle comes here from the controls up front, attaches to the throttle here. Then there's another one that comes off your control box that goes back to the shift bracket or reverse bucket, whatever you want to call it. And then there's a 6-foot cable that comes from that bucket up here and goes to the neutral safety switch, which basically tells it that it knows that the controls are in neutral, so it's okay to start. And then I'm going to try and fire it up. Last night I got my tack installed. Lights work on that and everything right there. So I think I did that correctly. And then I'm just going to zip tie kind of everything together, make it neat, and see if she cranks over. So I just got done cramming everything in this grommet and getting it fitted in. Took the whole side panel off. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws to take off, and then the whole side comes off. Probably the only way you're going to get that on and tucked in there properly. Got your throttle, neutral safety. Neutral safety is now adjusted. Your wiring harness there, tucked in. Extra little ground wire. And your fuel line fits right in there. Perfect. I want to put the side panel back on and move forward. So I just got done pushing
My son's back here.
the steering cable through the sleeve, which is all greased up, and it's a bit hard to do with the proximity that I had there for a radius. Shoved it through. It's pretty well greased up in there. And now I'm putting the linkage on, and I'm just finishing threading it up into the motor bracket. I did fire the motor after I added oil and double checked everything, and the motor started up. I shut it off real quick because you don't want to run it too long without the water hooked up to the jet foot, or being in the water. Just wanted to make sure that I had all the electrical connections complete. So I'm gonna switch my fuel water separator out before I actually put it in the water. And then, yeah, pretty well got it. Just gotta do some cleanup, tidy up these cables a little bit, and drop her in the water. Stand by. Gotta get that audio.
What are you doing? Testing.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right, here it is. Turnkey. Boat's all cleaned out. Everything's rigged. Seats back in. Key controls. Everything's good. Next time I do a video, it should be on the water.